For each week of the 2025 college football and NFL seasons, I'll be making my picks for some of the best games on that week. For this first episode of my college football selections, we have a brief Week 0 slate. Despite not having the best games of the year, this is always one of the most exciting weeks of the entire season. It signals the return of football and the buzz of anticipation that can be felt among all fans. Since there are so few FBS versus FBS games, I'll talk about all of them, but that won't be the case in future weeks. So let's get started with the first game of the season. This year's Aer Lingus Football Classic features a Big 12 matchup between the number 22 Iowa State Cyclones and the number 17 Kansas State Wildcats. Watching these offenses work will be a treat, and I don't think it'll take long for either team to reach mid-season form in this game. I think Iowa State will air the ball out at will, and I do expect the Cats' defense to adjust to that after a while. Kansas State's offense isn't one you can easily adjust to, however. They're built around their run game, and I anticipate it being one of the best in the country. It's designed to wear down the will of defenses over time, and I expect exactly that to take place in this game. So, give me the Wildcats over the Cyclones. Up next is the Fresno State Bulldogs taking on the Kansas Jayhawks in the afternoon slate. Fresno State has done a phenomenal job cementing their brand as a group of six school over the last few years, and their upcoming jump to the Pac-12 signifies that. That said though, they're running into an offense led by one of my favorite quarterbacks in college football, Jalon Daniels. When he's at full health, which he should be this season, Daniels is absolutely unstoppable, and so are the Jayhawks as a whole. I expect that to be the case in their first game at the new stadium, so give me Kansas over Fresno State. Then we have the Sam Houston Bearcats facing the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. I think this will be a pretty close game as these teams are in pretty similar spots to one another. They're both group of six teams searching for their new identities after an offseason where the transfer portal picked them apart. This game will come down to which program is most prepared to find that identity, and to me, that's the Hilltoppers. They've built this program to be among the best in the group of six over the last several years, and they easily adjust to new faces in key roles. I expect that to continue this year, so give me Western Kentucky over Sam Houston. Then we close out the first night with the Stanford Cardinal on the road to face the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. Stanford has had a bad track record in their non-conference schedules over the last several years, and they've struggled in what are supposed to be tune-up games, including an FCS loss to Sacramento State in 2023. That said, I like how they've rebuilt this program since bringing Andrew Luck back into the fold, and Hawaii isn't a team that I expect to do much this season. While it could be a shootout, give me Stanford with the win. On Thursday, we have the number 25 Boise State Broncos taking on the South Florida Bulls. While the Bulls have home field advantage, Raymond James is one of those big, quiet, and empty stadiums in college football. It's a pro stadium being used by a group of six team that doesn't have the brand recognition or fan base to fill it. Boise State will be a good team once again despite losing Ashton Jeanty, and this is especially true against a group of six opponents. While I don't expect them to finish ranked, they've certainly earned their preseason bid with the program they've built, and I expect that to be on display against the Bulls. And with the Bulls holding no real home field advantage, I gotta take the Broncos starting off 1-0. The next game after that is the Ohio Bobcats facing the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Rutgers is looking to continue their winning ways in 2025 following two straight bowl appearances. They booked this matchup against Ohio to be a pretty easy win to start off the season, but I wouldn't be so sure about that. The Bobcats are a very under-the-radar program who are led by Parker Navarro, one of, if not the best quarterback in the MAC. They're the favorites to win the conference and have even gotten some talks as a college football playoff sleeper. That said, I don't think Ohio will be operating at its best, with this being the first game of the season for them, and that's the caliber they would need to be at if they wanted to beat a Power 4 team. While this is another upset watch, I still gotta take the Knights to pick up the victory. On that same Thursday slate, we have the East Carolina Pirates taking on the NC State Wolfpack. This same matchup ended the season for both of these teams in 2024 as they faced off in the Military Bowl. The Pirates actually upset the Wolfpack in that game, so it certainly raises some eyebrows for this one. This has become a solid rivalry as of late, and I expect the tensions to run high for both squads. This will include the home Wolfpack crowd in Raleigh, and I expect them to play a huge role in this game. I would put this game on upset watch, but for now, give me the Wolfpack over the Pirates. The next game on that Thursday slate is the Jacksonville State Gamecocks taking on the UCF Knights. This game should serve as a tune-up game for UCF. JSU got eaten alive by the transfer portal, whereas the Knights retooled through it. I expect this to serve as the coming out party for FAU transfer quarterback Cam Fancher, and the Knights to secure the win at the Bounce House. Next is the Wyoming Cowboys facing the Akron Zips. Akron is in rough shape as a program right now, with its academic struggles landing it a postseason ban and the portal destroying it as a result. That's been the case over the last several seasons, as its record with transfers has been pretty brutal. While the Cowboys haven't built the strongest of programs in their own right, they've certainly done a better job than the Zips. Home field advantage won't do much for Akron either, as ticket sales have been hard to come by for years. The clear advantage is to the Cowboys, and I gotta take them to secure the victory. Next is the Buffalo Bulls facing the Minnesota Golden Gophers. The Bulls have been desperately attempting to rebuild their team that was once led by a powerful run game with the likes of Dylan McDuffie and Jarrett Patterson. While they seem to have done that, at least to some extent with Al-Jay Henderson, they haven't been able to build anything else around him offensively. Their defense was stout last year, but they have a lot of turnover in that unit. Additionally, Minnesota is a sleeping giant in the Big Ten. I expect Coy Parrish and the defense to smother the Bulls as the Golden Gophers leave with a blowout win. Then there's the Nebraska Cornhuskers facing the Cincinnati Bearcats. This game is at a neutral site in Arrowhead Stadium, but if we're being honest, it's going to be anything but that. Nebraska fans are already known to travel well, so given the pretty close proximity of Kansas City, they're going to pack the heck out of that place. I expect Nebraska's offense to be firing on all cylinders behind Dylan Raiola and Dane Key, and unless Cincinnati's defense is much better than expected, I'll take the Huskers over the Bearcats. The final game on Thursday is the Miami of Ohio Redhawks facing the Wisconsin Badgers. Miami is my pick to win the MAC. I expect Daquan Finn to bounce back incredibly well from his injury, and with the way he dominated the MAC at Toledo, I don't expect anything different here. The Badgers are one of their toughest opponents of the year though, so I don't know if you can count on them having that same success. But with that said, I'm not particularly high on Wisconsin this season, and I expect their growing pains to last all of their non-conference games and potentially into their conference schedule. So, while I'm not particularly confident in this pick, it isn't college football without an upset or two. Give me Miami in a shocker over the Badgers. Starting off the Friday slate, we have the Western Michigan Broncos facing the Michigan State Spartans. I am a big fan of Hayden Wolf and what he brings to the Broncos offense, but unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get to see the most of that in week 0. Michigan State's defense is simply out of their league, and so is its offense for that matter. While I'd also slide this one into the upset watch pile, I gotta take the Spartans over the Broncos. Then we have the Kennesaw State Owls facing the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. The Owls were America's lovable losers in 2024, and with where their program was at when they decided to make the jump to the FBS, it was to be expected. They're going to take a few years to catch up to the competition around them, and I foresee another losing season in 2025. While Wake is certainly a bottom feeder in the ACC, there is still a massive talent disparity between the two teams. I gotta take the Deacs in a major blowout. Up next is the App State Mountaineers taking on the Charlotte 49ers. This is a similar game to the Boise State versus South Florida contest, as it's two group of 6 schools clashing in a big empty home stadium of the major underdog. Similarly to USF, I don't see Charlotte overcoming its heavily favored opponents. App State has a loaded offense led by AJ Swan, and I just don't see Charlotte's weak secondary being able to compete. While I could see the Niners putting together some impressive scoring of their own, I still gotta take the Mountaineers with the victory. Next is the Auburn Tigers facing the Baylor Bears in one of the best matchups of the entire week. These two teams have pretty high ceilings, and I expect them to pull some major upsets this year. The quarterback battle between Sawyer Robertson and Jackson Arnold will be incredibly interesting to watch, as Robertson is looking to build on his impressive 2024 showing, and Arnold is looking to bounce back and live up to the hype he came into Oklahoma with before transferring over. This is another game where I think offense will reign supreme, and in picking which one of them will have the advantage, I'll have to lean towards experience. Baylor wins that battle as they have more experience as a cohesive unit, and it'll limit the ever-costly growing pains we see from most teams early in the year. If the Bears can just play a little defense to back it up, I'll take them with a win over Auburn. After that, we have the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets facing the Colorado Buffaloes. Despite being named co-national champions in 1990, these teams have never faced one another in their respective programs' history. They're just as worthy of opponents for one another as they were 35 years ago, as their rosters have answers for each other at every single position. I think the Buffaloes bring a completely new look to what we're used to, however. I don't just mean new faces when I say that either, although they have dealt with major turnover. Their offense is looking to be much more run-oriented, with a dual-threat quarterback in Caden Salter now under center, and Marshall Faulk as their new running backs coach. I expect their ability to pound the rock to catch Georgia Tech off guard and allow the Buffs to capture a major victory to start the season. Next, we have the UNLV Rebels facing the Sam Houston Bearcats in the second game in less than a week for both these teams. They'll be in very different mental states following different results in their first games of the week. UNLV will be rolling off what I project to be a blowout win over Idaho State, and for Sam Houston, they'll be trying to pick themselves up from starting the season 0-1. I expect this to be the first game where we start to get a sense of how legit UNLV is. I am really high on this team, and I expect them to make an appearance in the college football playoff, and Sam Houston is far from the toughest opponent the Rebels will play on the road there. I don't see them having any issue picking up the win, so give me UNLV over Sam Houston. In the final game of Week 0, we have the Central Michigan Chippewas facing the San Jose State Spartans. The 2024 season was a rough one for the Chips as they finished 4-8 and missed a bowl game. In conference play, they won just 2 games and were certainly among the MAC's bottom feeders. They didn't do much in the portal to address last season's weaknesses, and while they have a promising young core, it'll be a few years before that group is able to impact the game in a significant way. San Jose State, on the other hand, finished their season on a much more promising note. Despite losing to South Florida in the Hawaii Bowl, they treated us to a 5-overtime thriller on Christmas Eve that saw the breakout of wide receiver Matthew Coleman and an incredible performance from established starter Walker Egan. They returned both of those dudes this season, and I expect them to light defenses up all year long. The Chippewas are merely going to be the first of their victims, so give me the Spartans with the win. Thank you all for watching. Let me know in the comments which picks you'd change or what game you're most excited for this week. Happy college football season, everybody, and I will see you all next week. Take care.